is Indy, and today I'm here with another Shadowhunters chat for you. This is the review of episodes 5 and 6 of the Shadowhunters Season 3 TV show. If you haven't had a chance to go check out my reviews of episodes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, please go and check those ones out. Obviously this is going to be spoilery details, as well as I know the spoilery details from the book, so I will warn you if I'm going to talk about any of that sort of stuff in advance, just so you don't get spoiled for plot lines, for what's going on in the TV show. Also, if you are enjoying this video at any point, if you could give a like and a subscribe, that would be fabulous. Oh, so awkward. That's the first time I've ever said anything like that on my channel in the years that I've been doing it, but I thought I would just throw it out there, but that was super uncomfortable. But I'm not going to waste any time because these videos are quite long usually and there's a lot to talk about, so let's get into episode 5. Now today I don't have like a continued plotline sort of section that I usually start with before I break into specific characters, because there was so much going on in this episode. I think this is like the one that I've written the most notes for. Maybe episode 6 as well, but there was just so much going on and so much with each character, so I'm just gonna get into specific characters and talk about that, and we'll link through the rest of the characters later on. So I'm gonna start with our scary lady. I don't know what to call her still because I know her real name, so it's hard for me not to, and I write the notes with her real name. So scary demon lady. Now, Scary Demon Lady gets the beginning of the episode as well as right at the end of the episode, so this is gonna be a very fast forward version of just her, which is interesting. But we start out with I almost said her name. We start out with the Scary Lady having a chat to Magnus, as we saw at the end of episode 4. She went to his place to try and get some help. So we find out that she's trying to get help to create a de-loving potion. That's really not the right word, but she wants someone to fall out of love, essentially. So he's a bit like suspicious at first. He's like, oh, like I haven't heard of you, you know, I hear about most warlocks, you know. And she was smart enough to like tie in Ragnarfell there, which is a friend of Magnus's who died in like season 1 or something ridiculous. Doesn't happen in the book, just gonna say it. So that was like a good trust point, like she's a thinker, that one. But she's pretending that it is a story for a lover of hers, a soldier that was in love with her, and she needs him to forget about her. So I was like, I'm loving this whole storyline already. Like, she is awesome. So obviously she needs to get a piece of soul, which was crazy, and of course we do see that because it is for Jason Clary, she needs to get a piece of Clary's soul, and she does create a demon and does send him after Clary, but we do see Izzy kill the demon later on in the episode, which we'll get to. And then obviously she's like, oh, I have to go and do it myself. So then obviously at the end of the episode we do see her take the piece of soul from Clary. My god, I was like, this is gonna be hella interesting, but that was kind of like really scary and a lot easier to take the soul than I thought it was going to be. So, you know, that was cool, and I was definitely excited to see what was gonna happen in episode 6 after the whole point of him taking the potion at the end of the episode. Oh my god, we'll get to that right now. So continuing on with that story, I'm gonna get to Jace. So Jace is still very worried at this point that he is going a bit mentally insane and has some sort of mental illness like his mother. So he decides that he wants to check himself into the Silent Brothers, and he tells Clary and he tells Alec that he's going to go and do that at some point, which is like really sad that he's feeling this way, but it was very still interesting to have the storyline because it's a really not book Jace thing. So I'm enjoying this and the progression of this to do with our main storyline of him being the owl. And throughout the rest of Jace's storyline, we're pretty much relating it all into Simon. He is spending a lot of time with Simon in this episode, so I will definitely talk about that in Simon's segment. But as I said, at the end, he's at Simon's gig and the Scary Lady asks like him to get her a beer, and he's like, not sure my girlfriend's gonna like that, which I was like, lol, Jace thing to say. She was just like, oh no, you're just getting service. So then she slips the drink in and he becomes this like, him like weird, like stoic man self again, and he's just like, I'm ready to serve you, lady. So that was how the episode ended, but the next character I'm going to talk about is Clary. So So Clary's storyline throughout episode 5 is more so obsessed with helping Jace, and she wants to resurrect the angel to find out if this whole weird thing that he has going on is related to him dying and coming back. So she goes and she tells Luke that Jace wasn't just hurt, that he actually died, and she needs to speak to his sister Cleophas, who was originally an Iron Sister back in season 1 or 2, but she was booted out for killing another Iron Sister under Valentine's influence. It was a whole drama back then. But anyway, Luke wants to help her, but he is also very nervous about her trying to resurrect an angel, and we turn up at his secret house, they portal somewhere, and Cleophas is there, and she said that as a former Iron Sister, how to summon an angel, but she cannot do it herself. So she said because the angel Ithuriel, who, backstory book, this is not a spoiler, I'll just tell you a little bit more about it, he was a angel that Valentine had under his control at their house in Idris, and he had him locked in his basement, and that's what he used to experiment on Jace and Clary when they were babies, to use angel blood, and obviously that was a whole big mix. So in fact, Clary does have Ithuriel's blood in her veins, so we think that we can try and summon him because of that. So she creates this whole like summoning circle, does some magic-y things, I don't really know, and we see Ithuriel, which was very normal, not what I expected when I thought of angels. I'm trying to think how Raziel appeared to us in season 2, but this was very, very different. I was thinking more like the Fallen series by Lauren Kate, if you've seen the movie. It's very like lots of bright lights and maybe not specifically a face, like a very glowy sort of angel-esque thing. But he just like appears, he has wings, but like he's just like chilling. He's just like this like Greek looking thing. He's like, hey. Okay, it wasn't that casual, but it was just a lot more normal than I was expecting him. So he did know, and he did try to tell her that the owl has a master, which is obviously our scary lady person. He was gonna say the name, and I was so excited for him to say the freaking name so I could stop calling her scary lady and I could just say her for what her name is. But he didn't, because scary lady ripped his heart out. Yeah, cool. In her like weird, scary, demonic form. And that is when she takes the piece of soul from Clary. That was hectic. But yes, that was a very interesting whole scene for her, and very easy for me to talk about because it was all about the same thing. The next characters I want to talk about are Alec and Magnus. Now I'm going to mention them together briefly because they have a storyline sort of at the beginning, and that's sort of the most important part of it really. So in true Malik form, I really am over it at this point, and it does happen in episode 6 as well, and I'm so over this stupid storyline. It's probably the same in the book, but it was like more bearable in the book, I think. But again, we have this conflict with Malik, that they have some sort of issue at the beginning of the episode, and then it's sort of like it's really uncomfortable between them, and then they're always so down about each other, and at the end we have this resolution, and I'm just so sick of this constant storyline. Like why can we not just have normal stuff? Why do we have to have this stinking drama? I'm over it. Like, I'm getting mad about it. But Magnus has this box of trinkets that we see him playing with at the beginning, and Alec's like, oh, like what's that? And Magnus is like, nothing, you know. And Alec asks if he can move in with Magnus, and Magnus is very uncomfortable and says no, not at this stage. And then of course Alec sees the box that Magnus was looking at and decides to go snooping, and he sees all of these little artifacts, which we find out are Magnus's past relationships, like a little piece of them in this box. So there was this guy named George, and like, you know, like some feathers from this other lady obviously, and a few just like little bits and pieces. So Alec is pissed because he's like, well, I'm just gonna be one of these pieces one day. Valid point that he's gonna die, and you know, Magnus is gonna remember him and probably put something in there. But I'm just like, oh my god, I know it's uncomfortable. I get that it's uncomfortable thinking you're in a relationship with someone who has lived for so long and had many relationships and lovers, and you know, one day he will move on from you. I know that's hard to swallow, but you just have to accept that this is your life and your lifetime, and this is a lifetime for him. I like how I'm lecturing him right now. That just, I just don't know, just Alec needs to get the hell over it. And we do see that move into episode 6, which I will get to, but I I hate this whole Malik conflict every episode. It literally kills me. The other uncomfortable thing that happened with Alec in this episode, he's doing some work in his office and this blonde Shadowhunter guy, I'm gonna call him Blondie. I'm so sorry if that's offensive to blonde people. I'm semi-blonde now, so like, oh well. I'm calling him that necessarily because we're gonna see him in episode 6 as well, so I can just briefly call him Blondie Man. He has this uncomfortable scene. He's like way older than Alec as a character is supposed to be, maybe not in real life, but he's just like uncomfortably older, and he just like says to Alec like, hey, cool that you're in a relationship with Magnus, like thank you for coming out as gay, because like or else I wouldn't be able to come out as gay as a Shadowhunter. Like it was just really uncomfortable. Like I was just like, thanks. It's an avocado, thanks. I felt like it was just really uncomfortable. I don't know if it was just to be like in a moment of inclusion for the viewers, but I feel like, I don't know, it just made it uncomfortable and it was quite unnecessary because it just made it feel weirder than it should have. I know that they have quite strict rules in the Shadowhunter world. We don't see so much of that in the TV show, but there are a lot of crazy strict rules that they have to live by, and I guess being gay is one that's I don't know, it's not really talked about in the book necessarily, but I know that it's something they probably wouldn't accept as much, so I guess maybe that's what they were trying to go for, but I feel like because it's a new age TV show, like the books, you know, are 10 years old and stuff, so that was, again, a different time sort of period to now. I don't know, they made it weird, and I don't like it. The next character I'm going to talk about is Izzy. Now, we are continuing on with this doctor storyline, which I did already say. I'm sorry that I put it down in like episode 2 or 3 or whenever I talked about it. I am sorry. We are firing ahead with the doctor. So she goes on a date with him, which he is so sweet. I love him so much already. Charlie, what a sweetheart. Like, I'm surprised he doesn't ask about her runes and things. I thought he might, but he was talking about her bracelet. Now, I want to talk about this too, because I don't get why. So as we know, Izzy used to have that red necklace. I think I showed in my last video. It's in the bathroom. I can't be bothered to go get it. And she's made it into a bracelet now. So it's the red gem that sort of like flashes or gets hot when a demon is close by. And she's made it into a bracelet, and I just don't understand the reference to why she did that. But anyway, it comes up in this episode that she has her snake band on that she always wears, and also the bracelet and things. And so he's like, oh, like, what do you do? And so he comes up with the fact that she must be a jeweler. So I thought that was kind of cute that like it makes it seem like she makes jewelry as a living, and like I just thought it was really like a cute little storyline, not that it was really anything. Anyway, they have a great time at dinner, which was so nice for her, but then she does have to run off because a demon does flash up on her wristband, and it is the one that is looking for Clary to get Clary's soul, and Izzy does end up fighting the demon and killing it, and then she sees that Charlie has seen her, so she breaks her heels and pretends she's fallen over in a back alley like, lol, good one, Izzy. I mean, she did alright, he believed it, kind of. Anyway, he takes her to the hospital where he works, and he gets her stitches in her little graze on her head, and I don't know, it was just overall very sweet. It's a shame she has to sort of just run off at these like moments, and like she can't, you know, open up to him about anything, which is a shame, but like maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. I'm not really sure if this relationship's gonna last for very long. Low-key hope it doesn't at the same time as I do, because other things need to happen. Just saying, book lovers, you know what I'm talking about. But we will see, and some more things happen in episode 6, which I will get to. The last character I'm so excited to talk about, because I feel like most of this episode was so related to him, and that is Simon. So I loved this whole thing with Simon this episode, especially because Jace comes into it as well as Kyle. So Simon is pissed originally because his gig gets cancelled, and he's just like upset about that, and he finds Jace at the same bar, and Jace finds out about Simon's mark on his head, which we still haven't revealed the name of, and it's killing me. Like the scary lady, I just want people to say the name just so I can say it and stop beating around the bush here. So Jace wants to help Simon, and Jace is automatically suspicious when he goes to Simon's apartment. He's just like, all of these things, are they yours? And Simon's like, no, they were here. And he's like, okay. So they break into Kyle's room, looks very normal, and then he sees Wolfsbane on the windowsill, and Jace is like, girl, what's that doing here? And Kyle comes back and is just like pissed because he's like, what are you doing in my room? And comes out that Kyle is a werewolf, which, I mean, I don't know if that's surprising. I guess if you didn't know what the Praetor Lupus is from previous, I thought it was obvious because he spoke to Luke and said he's under the Praetor's control now. I figured that was obvious, but I guess not. But anyway, Kyle's a werewolf. Yay, that has come out. So he is under, yes, the Praetor Lupus, who is a, well, they described it as like a downworlder sort of helping thing, but I thought it was specific to werewolves in general. They're like a sort of elite, like training-ish sort of werewolf people that go and, yes, deal with downworlder things. But yeah, it was a little different that they described it, but I'm okay about that. So Simon is pissed that Kyle didn't describe who he was and what was happening, but Jace is like, he's doing his job to protect you, so you should definitely, you know, stay here. And Simon's pissed, so he goes and like is living in his van like that night and doing some gigs on the street. He does return to the loft and Kyle is very excited about that, but he's like, well, you know, if you want to protect me, I'm gonna go play my gig, so you have to come with me. And that leads into our whole Simon playing a gig and then the whole Jace getting poisoned by the scary lady. I love that Simon / Alberto gets to sing a lot in the show. Like, it's constant. Like in the next episode we see with Heidi, like his like music is everywhere and it's just so funny because I mean he can sing, but it's just like, I don't know, I just didn't expect to hear Simon singing so much or necessarily what he does sing in the TV show, so it's quite funny and I do really enjoy it. So that is all my thoughts on episode 5. Keep on watching and I will be talking about episode 6. Alrighty, episode 6, I have a shit ton of notes for this one as well, so let's get into it. I'm gonna first get Malik out the way. Don't even need a title sequence for them. Again, another, still talking about the box, and we have a conflict at the beginning. It's uncomfortable. Izzy's trying to like talk to Alec about it. It's just bad. Anyway, we do have a resolution at the end, but Magnus's whole thing about this is that he is a very complicated first boyfriend for Alec. Like, he wishes that Alec had had another boyfriend who was a bit more normal and, you know, not an immortal warlock who's been alive for 800 years, you know? And I get what he's saying, and Alec's like, oh, so you want me to go, like, frickin' be with someone else for a bit or something. I get why he was mad, but I also get what Magnus is saying in that respect. Anyway, I'm done with them. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's get on with Heidi / Simon. Alright, I'm gonna first start with Simon and talk about a few little things because his story does link to Heidi quite a lot. Heidi, of course, is the vampire chick that he turned, I guess is the right word. He sired her. We'll get into that. The first Simon scene that we open on is him and Kyle is dressed up in all of this gear. He's got a GoPro on. You know, he looks ridiculous in all of his gear, just in case Simon hurts him. He does try and go for a punch. Simon's mark does hit him at all, and off he goes shooting. He tried to see how it was and it was bad for him. My favorite part about that whole scene is that, of course, Kyle is Australian and he talks about grew up on the Gold Coast, and I was like, same! Oh my god. So I felt like a bit nice there for a moment because he talked about growing up at the Gold Coast, and I did that for 12 years of my life. So that was so nice. I was just like, oh, like I just felt like I had some connection to it, even though I obviously don't. So when we open on Heidi, which is the beginning of the entire episode, we see her putting some makeup on and she's like, it's a special day, and she has some tortured man in the background and it looks horrifying. Like, I watched it twice and I still don't know what was going on. He was hanging upside down. I think he had like a bag like half on his head, blood everywhere, into a bucket, and I don't even know what was going on there. But anyway, she was torturing someone. Great. And the next we see her, she is in Simon's apartment just hiding in the dark, and he's just like, oh, who are you? And she's like, oh, Simon, it's me, like So yes, we find out that from the Bleeder's Den that he went to with Raphael when he first turned, he died at some point. I'm not sure if someone just sucked her dry or what happened, but she turned and became a vampire, which I think I talked about it in spoilery time with relation to the books, but I'm gonna talk about it now, I guess, because the storyline is out in the open, so it's not really a book detail necessarily. But this does happen in the book in a slightly different way. We do have this character named Maureen who we did meet in the TV show season 1, who was like Simon's like band member thing, but in the books Maureen is this young 14-year-old girl who's obsessed with Simon, and he accidentally attacks her one day and she becomes a vampire, and yes, she is crazy. So it's they're following the same storyline, just aging it up a little bit and changing the context of it, which I'm not mad about. I like that we're still going with the storyline. So that was interesting that we're going with that, and yeah, she just believes that they're supposed to be in love. Like she's just like, oh my god, like we're supposed to be in love, and Simon's just like, yeah, this is uncomfortable. He talks to Maya about it, and she said maybe, you know, she was left all alone and she was turned just like I was, which is a spoilery detail in the book, which I will not talk about. But yeah, she was just saying maybe she's reaching out to someone. So he tried to reach out to Raphael, and he was catfished as fuck by Heidi. I love that she admitted it, but yeah, again, she tries to like have a date with Simon and say like, we're supposed to be together, like we gotta start our own vampire clan. He's like, no. He's like, I actually have a girlfriend. And I was like, ooh, not a smart move, not a smart move, she's crazy. So of course then she goes out of her way to try and find out who Simon's girlfriend is, and she does think that it is Izzy, because as we see at the dinner that I'll talk about, she does see Izzy and Simon chatting, and she does go after Izzy in like the bathroom, and Simon luckily intervenes and stops Heidi, you know, killing Izzy. Simon does go back to her place where she's been staying, and she's like, oh, that's so sweet, like, you know, you love me. But then he does give her over to the praetor Lupus, which again I was talking about in the last episode, that I don't understand what the praetor is supposed to be doing in this TV show necessarily. It sounds like they take wayward like downworlders and like rehabilitate them, which I don't know if we're gonna see Heidi again or not. I'm definitely intrigued to see where we're going with that one. I do want to talk about a book spoilery moment for 1 second. So if you haven't read any of the books, or specifically book 4, I suggest putting this video on mute. I'm only gonna talk for like 2 seconds, don't worry, until this image here goes away. So let me quickly get into some spoilery details for the book. So book-wise, obviously we had a few little tidbits in there for us book lovers that Jordan/Carl, I have to remember not to say his name, but he is obviously trying to avoid Maya. You know, someone's like, oh, my girlfriend Maya and I. So I think that was already a moment where I don't know if Jordan in the book necessarily knew that they were dating until they saw each other, but obviously he knows now, and he's trying to avoid, you know, catching up with Maya and Simon. And the other point was that Maya was hanging out in Simon and Jordan's place, and he was like, you need to leave, like, you know, he sent Simon a message saying, I think you need to leave, like, go hide out somewhere else, obviously, so then she doesn't see him because obviously they're ex-boyfriend, girlfriend. The tea. I can't wait for that all to come out. It's gonna be so freaking exciting. Alrighty, non-spoilery book people, I'm back. Alright, this next section is kind of gonna be a huge mess about talking with Jace, about Mama Lightwood, about the dinner party between all the family members with Ollie, Izzy, Alec, and the blondie gay guy and the doctor. Like, it's just gonna be interesting here with that, because it's all gonna come together because they were all in this like scene together pretty much, so that was like crazy to like note down. But I'm gonna start with some information about Jace, and then we'll get into the whole party scene situation. At the end of episode 4, we see Jace is now under Scary Lady's control, and she's asking him for the final sacrifice, the blood sacrifice of 33 disciples to resurrect Jonathan. So he's on his owl duty looking for people, and he has this weird gold sensory thing on where he can see like the good people, because they need people with like really good hearts, like good Samaritan-y people, which they obviously turn against their family members who they kill, and yada yada, they become blood sacrifice people. So we do see Jace looking out for someone, and then we see Alec snap him out, so he can still snap out of his weird mind control thing, which is awesome, but it's not obviously the same thing as like Clary snapping him out, lovely sort of stuff. So he does return to the Institute saying that he's been with the Silent Brothers, he's all hunky-dory. It was like, you know, you could tell something was up, like he was being a little bit weird. And even when Clary pulled him aside, she tried to like, you know, say we need to talk about things, and he was like, So she was a bit sus straight away about that whole thing. So I will get to Clary's storyline in a minute. Relating that all into the dinner, so Mama Lightwood shows up at the Institute and it's like, hi, I just want to see my children. And the people at the door are like, no. But then of course Blondie guy vouches for her, so I was already, and like him and Alec had like an eye moment, and I was like, no, we're not doing this. And we did do some more of this throughout the end of the episode, and I was not happy about that. But anyway, we'll get there. She's officially been de-runed, which I was like, shit, they actually did it. So Mama Lightwood is now just mundane, which is really weird, but she is just trying to find her way in New York, and and she's like, I just want to like, you know, spend more time with my 4 children, even though Max is not there, which we don't see Max a lot in the books anyway. But anyway, they decide to go out for dinner, and I have a bone to pick with this. I'm just gonna get it out the way now because I'm like, what? They go to dinner at the Hunter's Moon. I don't understand why they took Charlie Dr. Dude there. I don't get it. I think the Hunter's Moon may be a thing in the book. I feel like it's also the equivalent to Takis, I think. But they used to, in the book, go to this restaurant all the time where they served blood, and it was like the waitress person was named Kaylee and she was a fairy and Jace had a thing with her. So I feel like this is like their equivalent of that, like of Takis. I don't know if they serve like, you know, vampires and things there. I know Maya works there as a waitress. It was just all very confusing because I was like, is Dr. Dude not concerned at all that, like, I don't know, there's more people with their tattoos, like, at this bar, and obviously they're glamoured so that he cannot see that, you know, they're weird monsters and creatures, but I just thought it was a really strange place for them to take Charlie Dr. Dude for dinner, and especially their mum now that she's de-ruined. Like, when you just go to a normal restaurant, like, I just didn't get it. I was like, why go to a restaurant with all of your friends? Like, please explain that to me. But before we get to the dinner, we have a moment with Izzy and Mayrus, and she's just really quite sad about the fact that she's been de-ruined and, you know, what is she supposed to do with her life now? So that was a nice emotional moment because I was like, she's putting up a front here, and that is definitely not true. And of course it wasn't true, was it? So at dinner, we have Jace, we have Mama Lightwood, we have Alec, and we have Izzy. So they're all having dinner, and, you know, her mum's just like, oh, where's the nice doctor guy that you're inviting? And the boys are like, what? I didn't know about this one. So of course Charlie shows up, and of course, Jace has the little gold thingy saying he's a good person, let's kill him. He's just like, hell yeah, like, let's do this. So we have a lovely dinner, and I love the whole thing that Charlie brought up. So he's like, family business, you know, the jewelers. And Alec's like, jewelers, hey. And his mum's like, we prefer to be called artists, thank you very much. So I love that we still brought in the whole jewelry aspect because she said that she works with her family. I love that. And then Luke shows up, which was a really strange moment. I'm not sure where we're going with this, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. But Luke shows up and has a chat to Mayrus and is like bringing up things from the past. Like, he's like, I haven't seen you this like chillaxed and cool and happy since like the ball in Alicante. And he's just like, that's 20 years ago. And I don't know, they're having a bit of a flirt, and I'm like, no. You cannot replace Jocelyn with a Mayrus Lightwood. Thank you very much, Luke. Not having this, so I'm not sure if anything's gonna happen if he was just being nice, but I'm not happy about it. So then we have Izzy coming back from the fight with Heidi in the bathroom, and she's got some blood on her, or I don't think it's on here. And he's like, what's happening? Like, the Dr. Dude is getting sus about this whole thing. And she's like, it's fine. So I don't know if he's gonna like figure something out at some point, or if he's gonna push her to explain things more. But I'm intrigued to see what happens with that. But Jace, yes, does try to get him outside and to kill him, obviously, for the blood sacrifice. But then, of course, Miss Ollie, Luke's partner, walks in. Of course, she is rimmed as well with the gold, and I was like, here we go. So he follows her outside and does try to kill her, and he does infect her with, like, the weird stuff. So I don't know, she sort of sped off at the end of the episode, so we don't know what happened to her, but we do reveal to Clary and Magnus that he is the owl. Oh, and Luke, because Luke shot him, which didn't affect him at all. But yes, they all know that Jace is now the owl, so things should be interesting. I'm not sure if they're gonna put him on lockdown. I don't know what's gonna happen, but this was all very exciting that they finally know it's Jace. So I was like, huzzah! A bone I have to pick about the whole Jace infecting Ollie is that she's driving on the street and she gets out of her car and is like holding her gun up ready to shoot, and he knocks her down. They're in the middle of the street, remember? And then all of a sudden he knocks her down and they're in a back alley, and I was like, this was not a good scene change. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do there with that, but it was a bit clumsy, and I definitely noticed straight away. I was like, what the hell? They were on the street a second ago. So that was something that really annoyed me. So now I want to talk about Blondie guy at the Hunter's Moon. So Alec is having a bit of a tough time, obviously, with Magnus and the whole box situation. So he's having a drink, and several drinks, obviously, and Blondie guy's like, I'll just leave you to your drink, after they had a little chat. And then somehow Alec finds his way back over as Blondie guy is playing pool, and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and he's like, I'm so, like, fucked up, like, this is not good. And Blondie's like, oh, I'll sneak you out the back and, like, you know, get you a cab, it's gonna be fine. Like, I don't know, he just, like, opened up to him a lot, and I was like, oh, I don't like this, because Blondie guy definitely has a crush on you. And, like, I think think Alec realized that as well. He was like, oh, like maybe I should hit it off with him, but also not really consciously thinking about that. I don't know, I just didn't like it. It was really uncomfortable that I was like, no, stop flirting with other people. Stop telling this guy who likes you all your details about Magnus. Was not a fan of that whole thing. Hopefully it ends soon, but probably not, knowing my luck with guessing these things. I'm like, I'm not a fan of it. Alright, the next two characters I'm gonna bind together because they spend most of the episode together, and that is Clary and Magnus. So Clary shows Magnus a picture of the drawing that she drew of the scary lady's beast farm, and he's like, haven't seen any of that. I love the sass in him sending off a fire message. Oh, he's like, I don't know about it, but someone else might. He's like, and sends off the fire message, and Clary's like, okay. So we get a fire message back, and it's from brother Jeremiah, and he's like, yeah, happy to meet with you in the depths of the evening. So we meet brother Jeremiah. Obviously says there'll be a silent brother looking scary and like talking in the head thing, which she does the talking in the head thing, but no, just no. If you are a book lover, you know about a bit of a storyline with brother Jeremiah. That's really all that I'm going to say. But yeah, no, Clary's like, why do you look different? He's like, that's a tale for another time. And I was like, you're damn fucking right it is. I was not impressed with the fact that they made brother Jeremiah look the way he did and not a silent brother. I don't feel like that whole story that is related to him is in that timeline of TMI. It's definitely a TDA thing, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I was not happy about that. I was like, no. Even though people that haven't read the books don't know what I'm talking about, but I just, as a book lover, I was not really impressed with that whole thing. It was too obvious in my fact, even though it wasn't, but I was just like, no, it's too obvious. Why would you do this? And especially at the end when he was like, I'm happy to help anyone who is a friend of Will Herondale. And I was like, no! Clary's like, a Herondale? And I was like, no, the spoils. But it was a lovely segue to the fact that she's like, oh, you know, Jace, like, did you help with his treatment at the Silent City? And he was like, oh, Jace didn't show up at the Silent City. I would have happy to help. So that leads into the whole, like, oh my fucking god, where was Jace? And that's when we portal in and the whole fight of him taking over Ollie, and they find out that Jace is the owl. So that was a nice segue into that whole thing, but like, that meeting with brother Jeremiah destroyed me. So that is all my thoughts, opinions and feels on episode 5 and 6 of the Shadowhunters season 3 TV show. I hope you enjoyed and you followed along with all the details. I'm so looking forward to continuing with this because I'm having so much fun reviewing them and like picking out the little details as a book lover and figuring out things. I love it so much, and I hope to see you in my next video, whether it be a Shadowhunters video or not. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next. Bye! So at the end of the episode, oh my god, I almost said her name, Jesus. Oh, my feet are cramping up. Oh. So we get